I will bring on our guest, Mr. Tyler Kemp. He is the CEO and co-founder at Strike R&D Tax. Welcome.
Thanks, JD. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's so great to have experts from different industries, some a face other than my own.
Roughly 50% of the business owners that I speak to have never even heard of the research and development tax credit. And I think that's just always the biggest surprise, is that this is a tax credit that has been around since 1981, but it's also a tax credit that expired 8 times and was extending 15 different times until it was made a permanent federal credit in 2015. So it is a credit that's here to stay now. It's something that both sides can agree on. Really, the idea behind the incentive is perform R&D here in the US, pay higher wages, pay higher contractors, and you get a tax credit back. It's a way for the government to incentivize businesses and business owners to do more and more research and development. And in doing so, they give a tax credit back. And I think that just is always the biggest surprise, is that there's a tax credit for me. And anyone that has a patent or is going down the invention road is likely going to meet the requirements under the R&D tax credit. And so they are qualified. It's just a matter of how large are your tax credits.
Right. This is awesome because the patent system, I can go on forever, but it was set up to incentivize creation, right? To get people out of the woodworks to come up and share their inventions, and so that we can, as a country, be more knowledgeable and be innovative.
You brought up a good point that you have a 20-year monopoly on the idea. These federal credits actually roll forward 20 years until you can use the credits as well. The credit isn't it as an income tax credit. So a dollar for dollar reduces income tax liabilities. And that was always the case to the 80s, 90s, and early 2010s. When the tax credit became permanent, it opened up an opportunity for startups or qualified small businesses to use their federal tax credits to offset payroll tax. So even though the business might not be profitable in those early years during the R&D phases, if you have employees, if you're paying yourself, you can start to at least offset your payroll tax, for the first 5 years that you have revenues. So we do help a lot of businesses that are in growth mode, maybe pre-revenue, still utilize the credits. However, the biggest bang for your buck with these tax credits are dollar for dollar reducing what you owe. As the corporate tax rate is increasing, these tax credits become even that much more valuable. This is a deferred asset, right? It is an asset that you can put on your balance sheet. You can include in your pro formas and your budgeting to show your investors that when you do hit break even or you are going to be profitable, at least you'll retain that much more amount of cash, as opposed to having to pay the IRS or the state your income tax liabilities from being so profitable. Not only that, by having these credits, it does increase your valuation. You can show your investors that you have spent this amount of money towards IP, towards your patent, towards your ideas, and that's a way to validate the work that you've already done. So I think you can look at it from both perspectives. It'll help you in the long run reduce what you owe, but at the same time, it increases your valuation if you can show your investors you really have put money in towards this idea or this patent.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. So do I need to work with a company like yours in order to get the R&D tax credit? And can my accountant deduct the R&D amount? He apologizes if you already answered this. So go ahead, Tyler.
Yep. Thank you. So this is an expense-based tax credit. So we're looking at payroll, U.S. contractors, supplies, and materials. So you're already expensing those, and there's going to be a tax credit that's generated on top of that. Now, there are mechanics that in some cases you have to add that credit back to income. Sometimes you can take the reduced credit. I don't want to get too technical here, but going back to the first question is, a lot of CPAs choose to work with R&D tax credit specialists because it is such a niche part of the tax code. And that's all we do. We only specialize in R&D tax credit consulting. Again, we're not the day-to-day accountants. We're not the taxpayers. We are meant to be an extension of your CPA. And there are some CPAs and CPA firms that have R&D departments in-house. But this is something you definitely want to get an R&D tax credit expert and specialist looking at your tax credit claims. It is one thing to calculate the credits. It's another to document and know how to substantiate them and make sure that they stand up against an audit.
Great. Thank you, Tyler. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap up. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Go big and go bold.